Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risks. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have a very special episode with Dr. Kim Everett and with Stacey Saunders, both of whom are facilitators for the new Phoenix certification by Insure Equality, which I am on the board of. So a lot of my listeners over the last month and a half heard me making a lot of noise about my fundraiser for Insure Equality. Thank you everybody for your support. And in the past, we have had we've had Elisa Stamp, and we've had a few conversations about Insure Equality on the podcast and about Phoenix the tool. This is the first time that we're talking about the Phoenix certification. So for the listeners, Insure Equality, a nonprofit focused on improving DI within insurance and with a strong focus on accountability, not just education. Chicago-based, about 2 years old. I joined the board January of this year, and I'm just the loudspeaker, basically. And Phoenix is a fantastic tool that's about a year old, where any insurance professional can rate their company on what it feels like when it comes to seven characteristics of DEI. Eventually we'll have enough data to do several things with that data, to go to the carriers, the brokers, etc., and basically be like, hey, this is what your people are saying, this is what you're saying, how can we help you up your game? And eventually we'll have enough data to be able to create kind of like a glass door for DEI within insurance. So what is the Phoenix certification that just launched?
Well, you want to go, Dr. Kim?
Yeah, I can. The certification is the next step for what you just talked about. In the meantime, while we are collecting the longitudinal data to be able to speak to large trends across the industry, the certification gives companies an opportunity to use the information from the Phoenix assessment right now to build a stronger culture that is more inclusive and equitable for all stakeholders.
Yeah, and to what Dr. Kim was just stating, Jenny, first of all, Tony, thank you so much for your ongoing support and like fundraising and efforts, like not only on the board, but certainly off the board. So first, thank you for that. And thank you for having us today. And as Dr. Kim just stated, the certification is really that next level to be like, what does culture look like day to day? How can we support you in that? So as Kim and I are the two Phoenix facilitators who are onboarded and, ready to, start working with companies right now. It's like, here we are to support you in that day-to-day action. So after you take the assessment, here's what the assessment is saying about you. And then here's where we can be holding your hand on that next part of the journey to break those things down so that you are making daily and weekly and monthly contributions to your organization.
Mm-hmm. So in the certification, we walk hand in hand with folks to be able to unpack what they learned from the assessment and to build a plan that everyone in the company should be able to articulate, participate in, but most importantly, help create. And so we walk through that process together of determining what culture should look like at this organization and developing steps to get us there.
And then with that, as we continue to have these ongoing conversations about what the certification can look like, it's also to be like, oh, how does this fit into evaluation? How does this fit into, again, your policy changes? How does this play into, again, reevaluating your mission, values, and vision statements to be like, how is this moving the organization forward? So at at many different levels than just, oh, let's assess where we're at right now. It's like, oh, in terms of going forward, okay, here's how we can use this again, whether it's we meet every year or we meet every quarter. Here's how we can continue to use this as an evaluation piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so historically in our industry, the Gallup employee survey seems to be the most popular thing to assess employee engagement. And my experience with that assessment, it's not particularly DI focused at all. So how is Phoenix better? Why should insurance organizations look at getting certified through Phoenix?
I'll let you start, Stacey.
Oh, you'll let me start. So first off, it's again, culture includes a lot of different things. So certainly, yes, it includes, if you break the letters of DEI down, so in terms of that diversity, in terms of that equity, in terms of that inclusion, it will break down each of those areas that then go into like the current culture, right? So if you're saying that you're inclusive, what does that look like in your meetings? What does that look like, again, in your policies? What does that look like if I'm having a conversation day to day? How are you enforcing that, or enforcing, or in terms of that accountability, how are you enforcing that on a day-to-day basis when someone, let's say, goes to HR? What is then the procedure like then after? What are the procedures before someone goes to HR, right? So how do we help like diminish like the need to be like, oh, HR needs to be involved? It's like, maybe they don't. They, people just need a better way to be with their feelings or thoughts or what's coming up for them in that moment, to then be able to advocate for themselves outwardly and express, and to be able to have that dialogue moving forward. And that is where, whether it's any previous, you mentioned Gallup specifically, whether it's like that assessment or any other assessment tool that people have used, where we kind of go the next step is like really to be in terms of that coaching piece of it, to then be like, here's how we can help you break that down. To my knowledge at the moment, I'm not sure that Gallup has really if they do have coaching, that it is kind of in this way, to where it's like, we're looking to partner with you. We're looking to be like, this is a long-term thing. And the change that you're going to be making, while it may seem slow, because again, any incremental change is going to take at least 3 to 6 months for you to start to see improvement. And are you willing to understand that? Be willing to be a part of that process? Know that this is going to be, yes, in terms of the certification, we say it's, in terms of getting through the training, it's a 3 to 6 month like obligation or kind of commitment. But at the same time, it's like, in terms of this coaching, is like, know that this is at least like, 18 months, 2 year, like full on agreement that you're looking to start.
Mm-hmm. And we back up even before, as we're thinking about processes, procedures, and tactics to really tackle mindsets and perspectives and help folks to see that when we work together to create a culture, we develop a culture that everyone buys into. We develop a culture where there's less resistance. We develop a culture where everyone has a focus on a goal and are moving in concert toward that goal. And so once all of the whys come to mind, then we will walk them through a number of the hows together. And what's special about what we have to do is we are walking you through your context. We're not coming in to tell you what you should be doing. We are asking the right questions, putting you in front of the right people, making sure we gather everyone so that you can create this possibility. And one of the biggest selling points for us is that this is a replicable process. We know that this is not a one and done. Once you finish this certification, your organization will be able to revise and review on a regular basis in order to make sure that this approach to keeping the culture fresh is ever present.
Yeah. And what I like about what Kim just stated is really that, okay, we're taking you back to basics in a lot of different ways. So again, it's like, this is your mindset. These are your reviews of how you have reviewed your own organization. So again, we're not coming in to say like, here's where you need to be at. Here's what the data is showing. Here's where you're at. And then what I would say is also different about our assessment and certification is we're bringing all of the people together. So whether it's, leadership, whether it's your employees, whether it's, ER groups, ERC groups, like literally bringing everyone to the table. So it's not just like, oh, we're going to send, managers along, or we're just going to send leadership along. Like, no, you're all going to be in the room together, because at the end of the day, our objective is that you can have these conversations, right? And be able to have the tools and be able to know that you have the skills to be able to have these conversations on a day-to-day basis, so that your culture is improved by the people that are there.
Okay. Do we need to do the entire company for this to work, or can this start in a specific department? How does this usually start?
Dr. Kim?
It's for sure our preference for it to be the entire company. It really is sort of the unit of culture. There are certainly cultures that exist within departments or exist within teams, but they are situated in the larger company culture. So that is where we want to be able to make the greatest impact within this bubble.
And Insure Equality has focused on those, mid-size, so those, 1 to 100 employee-based organizations to begin with. So we really wanted to have something that is accessible to them, because oftentimes some of the larger companies, they have the dollars to like bring in like expertise that may or may not be serving them, but here's a huge part of the market that's getting left out. So having those small business owners, entrepreneurs, kind of franchisee, like again, one to 100 employee organizations be able to have similar resources and to be able to price it at something that would be functional for them. And then also for us as leaders and facilitators to have groups that are small enough. So in terms of the cohort style, to be able to have groups that are able to, move together and have that attention that they need as well, to be able to dive deeper into the work that they're going to be doing.
Okay, so at this point, especially aiming towards agencies, which tend to be in that size, and yeah, the agencies have very few resources to help them do work of this kind. Also, they're very unlikely to have sat down and really thought about their culture. The culture is probably just kind of developed over time without overt attention into it, and one of the reasons that we end up with less than inclusive cultures is that kind of, it just kind of grew over time without somebody really paying explicit attention to it. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we agree.
How did this get developed? Where did it come from?
I'm gonna guess
it predated both of us. But
it predated both of us for sure.
From what I understand, just as you said, the Phoenix assessment was the first step of trying to be able to give genuine data that is based in the stakeholders at a company about how life is lived in that organization. And as you've already said, that information is fine, but it's sort of, and now what do we do with it? And so the leadership at Insure Equality wanted to be able to give tools in order to make the assessment actionable, so that it's not just something that is for information, so that it is not just a way to sort of judge or rate, but it becomes a tool to actually make improvements. It becomes a tool to gather a baseline of where our company is today. And if it's not someplace where we like, then here are some resources to be able to do something about it.
Yeah, and to Dr. Kim's point, because yes, the assessment itself is the brainchild of, Elisa, of Kylie, of other folks who have predated Dr. Kim and I. But in terms of what is bringing this more to life in terms of certification is that coaching piece, to literally be like, here's where we are going to give you that additional support. and the tools and show you how to be able to replicate this over and over and over again, which is then integrating it into your policies and procedures, your review processes, your like onboarding potentially going forward. Or, you know, because again, like you said, Tony, it's like many companies have just, you know, oh, we think our culture is fine. Like we've been working now, we've been moving and humming for the last, you know, 2 to 3 years. But it's like, oh no, this is when you start to see the cracks, right? And this is any organization to be like, what got you here in the first couple of years is not going to keep you going. So if you are truly committed to having your culture be the best that it can be, we have a tool for you, right? At the end of the day, here we have a tool for you, and we're going to give you the resources to help you move through that process.
Okay, and you talked about how the commitment is for a fairly long period of time. How is the service priced?
Yeah, so that is, you know, flexible by organization. I think we have it right now priced at $1,200 per participant going through. So again, in terms of groups moving through this, depending on the size of the group, that pricing may not change. And we also have ways that folks can, you know, like whether it's financing, whether it's just, you know, how do we structure that so to make it, you know, equitable for people moving through. And part of all of this as well is how are we modeling what we're going to be teaching you as well, right? So if we have a price point that doesn't work or serve someone, then, you know, we'll start to look at that as well. But like for the main point, it's like, yeah, we have to model what we're willing to teach. So in terms of the equity, in terms of pricing, it's like, yes, we can work with folks and structure that in a way that it supports both of us.
Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, the certification is pretty new, right? It's only the last couple of months that it got released.
Yes.
Okay. Do we have organizations that are already starting the process? Or
yes.
Okay. So how is that going with the first few to go through it?
So at the moment we are learning and growing, right? So, you know, again, with anything, it's kind of like we have the workbook, we have the tools, we have, you know, the courses, we have folks moving through things. And then as Kim and I, you know, work together in terms of coaching them, you know, for right now, it's like it's humming, right? It's humming. And, you know, yes, I'm sure we'll improve as time goes on. Like just as a coach and facilitator, I know that I'm always learning from each experience.
What is the time commitment?
We keep this contained within a 3 months time span from beginning to end, but beyond that is really completely customizable based on the organization and their needs. There is a weekly coaching call that Stacey and I host. That's the only thing that's really fixed. Everything else can be according to the needs of the organization. And that's one of the things that we do at the early onset of the process of laying out exactly what's going to happen when, so that everyone knows when they should be expected, so that we know when there may be busy times in the organization or when there may be busy times in life, so that we can make sure that it fits and meets everyone's needs.
Yeah. And then also, in terms of that equity as well, is like, okay, we don't want this to be, you know, like an extra, like it's kind of like, oh my God, and I now have to find like space for this. So with each cohort, it is kind of like, okay, great. Like, how can we integrate this into something that you already have? Or with like, you know, with the group that we have now, it's like, okay, great. We have a weekly meeting at this time. Can we do our calls at this time? Right. To when we know that we're already all going to be together. So it's a matter of, that third C, which is customizable. So the first C is, you know, cohort. The second C is coaching. The last C is customizable. So what does this look like for you to be making this, at least in terms of the certification and assessment, at least a 3-month commitment, And then, as to Kim said, the rest of the customization is up to you to be like, oh, hey, like we are available to move more forward, forward with you in terms of breaking this down. Because again, 3 months, we know in the back of our brains, Kim and I know this in the back of our brains, that that's not enough time to fully get at the root of like what is going on in terms of culture.
Yeah, but it gets you started in the right direction, basically.
Exactly. In that 3 months, we hope that you have a sense of your baseline, that you have asked all of the right questions and have some initial answers that you might want to test out for a little while, knowing that it's going to be an iterative process that you're going to need to come back to again and again.
Yeah. And with each stage of the courses and with the workbook, you are assessing that at each stage. So there is the once you come in from the initial assessment, it's kind of like, okay, what did you learn from that data? Okay, great, here's how we're moving you into like the next portion. Okay, great, let's think about your what's the pledge that you want to have to yourself, what's the pledge that you want to have to the organization. Okay, great, let's now look at mission, value, vision. How does your pledge to yourself, how does the pledge to the organization fit into that? And then keeps breaking it down to then be like, okay, great, what does the accountability look like? Okay, what are some of the internal and external factors? Okay, great, so if we now go back through everything that we just had and talked about, how does this play into your pledge? How are you viewing this from the pledge that you've committed to? How now do your processes fit into that? Do they fit into that? And that's where, again, the customization starts to happen, to be like, if you need additional support or hand holding, or to be like, oh wait, we're really not doing XYZ or ABC, here's where we need to dive deeper as an organization.
And there are many, many, many dimensions to culture. So in this 3-month process that we walk through together, we will not tackle all of them. We will early on develop a couple of priorities that we will begin the process. And then they can, once they feel some success and security around addressing those priorities, then we can move to the next set of priorities. And again, repeat the process all over again.
Yeah. And for Kim and I, the beauty that has been shown so far as we continue to have conversations with Elisa, with Kylie, and the rest of the IE team is to be like that accessibility, like moving forward, to be like, oh, wait, here's ways that I can integrate this like into my other coaching practices. Here are even other courses or dimensions that we could break down for folks within the certification program. Maybe it's not called the part of the certification, but it's like, here are some additional courses that you can then be walking through, or here's some additional workshops, here's some additional facilitation. So again, it's that ongoing, customizable, possibly could still continue to be cohort style learning and training, because it's not only learning from us, it's also learning from your peers. So how are you learning from each other?
Okay. For anybody who wants to learn more and potentially start this process, is this all on the Insure Equality website? Reach out to one of you. How do we get started on the process?
Yeah, so many ways. So you just mentioned a few. So yes, it's on the website. From there, it may click onto the. We have a one-pager that will then have like next steps to be like, okay, click here, give us your name, give us your time frame, all like more of a back end Google form to complete, and then one of us will be reaching out to you. Or yes, you can absolutely, I don't know if you're posting our LinkedIns, you can definitely be they can get in contact with Dr. Kim and myself, and we can speak to you and get you moving along. So there's a lot of points of entry to get involved or to get more information.
Yeah, and we're always looking for a way to say yes. We're always looking for a way to onboard. So if there is interest, express it, and let's see what we can figure out.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I will include both of your LinkedIns on the show notes. Perfect. Thank you for your time today, and looking forward to hear how things go with the first couple of cohorts. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. Thank you for all that you have done in service of supporting Insure Equality, like not only by sitting on the board, but certainly your recent fundraiser and just your constant talking and raving about the organization. So thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.